doesn't have speech.
Hello. So let's start with doing some really simple mental arithmetics, please. So if everyone could please just visualize a day of their normal weekend and ask yourself, how many hours did I sleep that day? And now add that hour to how many hours did I study, or how many hours did I do work? And then add to how many hours did I eat, and add to how many hours did I do all the other miscellaneous things. So you can probably see my point over here. A lot of time in our lives is lost without us even knowing. When I first did this exercise, I add up to only 18 hours after adding up to every single possible activity I can think of. So it means that 6 hours of my life have been gone without me even knowing what I spent them on. So this is a major problem that everybody faces and that I still face sometimes now. But here today, we are to tackle the solution. And trust me, the root cause of the problem does not lie in bad time management or procrastination, not just some symptoms of the problem. Here, let me explain what the root of the problem is. Ask yourself candidly, honestly, how many of you actually bothered 30 seconds ago to add up all the time? How many of you actually bothered to think about all the activities you did in life and add up to see if they did 24 hours? Or are you one of those people like me who halfway through the exercise just said, oh yes, I get the point. Okay, cool, I admit it. I'm not going to do it anymore. So the problem is that when we face this issue in life, we're not actively trying to solve it. We're trying to evade the problem by telling us, yes, I know the problem, I can solve it anytime I want. But the truth is, we cannot if we keep evading the problem. And yes, this problem, summed up in a few words, is that we are not living consciously. So let me briefly define what living consciously is. Living consciously is to put a degree of mindfulness into your daily life. It's to know where you are in regards to life, to know how fast you're progressing, and to actively step out of your comfort zone, to tackle the challenges that you know that once you achieved will be beneficial to you. So to sum up with today's theme, living consciously, to be actively daring to seek the truth. So when I first read about the problem, I told my friend Benson over there, I was like, yes, Vincent, look, here's this exciting concept. We need to live consciously. But then he asked the real problem. Why do we need to live consciously? Like, what is the point? Because living consciously obviously entails like spending a lot more effort, like trying to step out of your comfort zone, trying to do all that. Like, what is the point when you can just like YOLO, live your life, and just go with the flow? So yeah, it was actually a pretty hard to answer problem, so I thought about it for quite a few days. And then I realized that living consciously can bring us two things in the long term. Firstly, through living consciously, we can gain a higher self-esteem. So we can gradually acquire a higher reputation with ourselves, and then by telling us that we are not evading the problem, we are actively facing the problem in life, we're gaining this self-esteem. But moreover, living consciously can allow us to self-actualize. So two ways. Firstly, by stepping out of comfort zone, we can do a lot more things in life. We can do the things that we never dared to do before. But moreover, living consciously can save us a lot more time, make us more efficient, and make us master a skill better. So I told Benson that I know he loves photography, so I told him that by using this method of living consciously, he can soon become a better photographer in much less time. And yes, if you're one of those people who like to play basketball, through living consciously, you can master the skills of basketball better. If you love music, singing, or dancing, you can squeeze a lot more time in your life. You can squeeze the 6 hours that you never know existed in your life and dedicate them to chase your dreams of music. So here we are with all the benefits of living consciously. And yes, I personally have experienced all the benefits as well. So as earlier the introduction said, yes, I'm a really passionate debater, and I go around places to attend debate tournaments. So about half a year ago, my partner and I, we went to the Shanghai regional tournament, and we managed to get the semi-finalist position, which is like 4th place. So at that time, I was like really ego boosted. I'm like, yeah, I must be the best debater in Shanghai, right? Because like I got the 4th place. I'm like one of the special individuals. So I was really proud of myself, and yes, a really negative form of pride. And then a month or two later, when I went to the national tournament in China, with my partner, the result is quite disappointing. So we did not even get through the preliminary rounds, meaning that at least 20 or something teams are better than our team. 20 teams got a higher score than us. So my previous belief that I am the best debater and my previous ego just like plummeted onto the ground and shattered. It was undoubtedly like a huge blow to my ego. So I told my partner that this cannot be, right? Like there is no way that we didn't even get like better than the 20 other really bad teams. There's no way. We need to go talk to the judges. Perhaps the judges are unfair, or perhaps they don't even know how to judge, or maybe there's something wrong with the system. But then when my partner told me, she told me the right thing to do. She told me to calm down, to just stop for a second and to look within myself, to see what is a problem in regards of my personal self. So I didn't know at that time, but now I learned that what she is suggesting is for me to live consciously. So I need to do the hard thing, to step out of my comfort zone. And the hard thing at that time is to admit to myself, genuinely and honestly, that no, I am not as good a debater as I think I am. So this was undoubtedly a really painful procedure and hard for me to accept, but gradually I did. But living consciously is more about knowing the problems there. Living consciously is about actively trying to do the things to solve the problem. So what I did is that I began to stay late after every single debate class to talk to my coach about how I can improve personally. I began to read different magazines like Harvard Business Review and Economist to broaden my knowledge. I began to do all these forms of things to try to be better in debate. And after a few months of hard work like this, the results showed that yes, it did pay off. The ensuing time, the following time that my partner and I went to the Shanghai tournament, it was about 2 months ago, we managed to get the finalist place, the second place. So it showed that through living consciously, all of our efforts, it can pay off. It can make us into a better person. It can make us be better at our skills. And now before providing with all of you a series of procedures, of actions that we can take to live consciously, I would just like to stress that what living consciously is not. So when I was preaching about this concept of living consciously to my friends, just like what I did last time, my friend Leon said that living consciously sounds pretty much like trying to put overly too much attention into your life, right? I know that some of you probably think this way, like living consciously is living an overly stressed life, to put consciousness into every bit of your life. So I responded with an analogy. I said that living consciously is like when you're riding a bicycle. It is not about dedicating every single inch of your brain power into think about how you're going to pedal the bike or turn the bike. No, that is not what living consciously is. What living consciously is about being aware, knowing where your bigger direction you're riding to. It's like knowing that where you are on the road and where you want to ride the bicycle to in the end. Living consciously is about the more macro approach. But moreover, living consciously is not about doing the things that you do not want to do. For example, if you really hate climbing onto rooftops to do whatever with your friends, then you don't have to do that. In fact, living consciously is about doing the opposite. You need to know what is good for you, know what is bad for you, take a really objective analysis on all the things around you, and then in the end, tell yourself what bubbles you need to break, and what lines you need to cross, and of course, what things you should never do. So now I would like to offer 3 ways to effectively to make sure that we incorporate the idea of living consciously into our mind. So the first way that I'm going to offer is this thing that I call to create a wish list. So what we want to do is to have a question laid out in front of us. And so the question should be something like this, like, what do I want to achieve in life if I have the capability to? Or what do I think I can achieve if I just put 5% more consciousness into my life? So now we see that there's a question in front of us. And what we do is that we sit in front of a paper and pen or a laptop, and we begin to write the responses. For 2 minutes straight on, type the response or write a response without taking any thoughts. Just write whatever that came into your head. So what this means is that you are accessing the deepest part into your subconsciousness. Without any covering, without any modified thoughts, you're accessing the truest part of your brain. You're asking your brain to truly tell you what you actually want. So now 2 minutes later, after you write all your responses on the paper, Now's the time when you see, when you ask yourself to read over the paper and to see that what responses have you written. So when I did this exercise, I have realized that there are a lot of parts of me that I did not know about myself, and there are a lot of dreams that I want to achieve, which I previously didn't even know. So as we can see, this exercise is building the groundwork. It tells us that what big direction do we want to go in life. And now the second action plan is to create a timetable. This is to make sure that we can go effectively to follow that goal in your life. So the story goes like this. So my friend Leon earlier, as I mentioned, he studies accounting. He had been studying accounting for years, and every time he can spend hours every day to study accounting. But then the thing is that he does not miss out any of his schoolwork, and moreover, he still has friends. So he has a really complete social life, even though he has been so academically dedicated. It's as if his day has 36 hours or something. So I asked him, how could you possibly fit so many things into your life when I'm already struggling with my homework? So what he said is that he uses timetable approach. So as we know, we have a limited number of hours every day. When we return from school, we probably only have 8 hours to do our work. So we want to effectively organize our time. So first we write out our tasks. But the most important part is that we want to estimate. Make sure we estimate how much time we're going to spend on each task. So for example, from 12:40 to 1:20, I'm going to do English homework for 40 minutes, estimation. From 1:20 to 1:30, I'm going to do my computer science homework for 10 minutes. So now this estimation approach allows us to accomplish two things. Firstly, through repeatedly estimating and seeing and trial and errors, gradually you can be a lot better at estimating how much task you actually have. So your timetable will be a lot more accurate, and therefore this means that you can save a lot more time. But moreover, this estimation provides this binding sense of contract around you. So it's when I estimated I need to do my English homework for 40 minutes, I will try my best subconsciously to finish my English homework in 40 minutes without resorting to procrastination. So this 40 minutes has become this kind of contract that I must fulfill. So now, yes, so we write our task, we estimate the amount of time, we write out how much time we actually spend on each task, we compare, and we draw reflections, and for the next day we'll be better at estimating. So this approach can save us a lot more time, and just believe me, try it out for 2 weeks. You'll see how useful it is. But then, so I told my friend Vincent again about this method, and then he told me that he faced one big problem. It is that every time when there's a 40-minute task, sometimes throughout the 20-minute mark, he feels a sudden desire to go play computer games. Or he wants to go watch a movie or play Clash Royale or whatever. He wants to procrastinate. So scientific research has shown that procrastination or going off task is a mechanism in our brain, a defense mechanism, to kind of avoid the big intimidating task ahead of us. By procrastinating, our brain is fooling itself into thinking that there's no such task. But then the point is that procrastination often brings us negative impacts. So this strategy was what I call a delayed action strategy. So what I do is that every time that, for example, every time I'm taking my SD class for 40 minutes, and every time at the 20-minute mark that I want to go play games, what I will do is that I will tell myself to just hold on for 3 minutes longer, to just finish this video. So now what I'm doing is to minimizing the task of 40 minutes into 3 minutes. So my brain will think that, oh yes, it's actually accomplishable. And now, oftentimes, after the 3-minute mark, you will no longer feel a strong desire to play games, and you can continue on for the task a lot longer. So now just a brief recap of my talk. Living consciously is about to actively know where you're in life, to dare to find the truth, and it is about, and it can bring us self-esteem and self-actualization. And through creating a wish list, a timetable, and using the strategy of delayed action, we can effectively incorporate the idea of living consciously into our brain. And now, I would like all of you to just ask yourself one last question. How much more do you think you can achieve in 2 months if you begin to live consciously today? Thank you.